Hello, I'm Dennis, and I sing in a band called Refused, and we're playing in Toronto tonight. It's gonna be good times.
How is the tour going so far? Let's start with some basics.
The tour is going great. I mean, it's only been 3 shows, but it's been really good, and the support bands are fantastic, and the crowd's been great. Montreal last night was really killer show. So, yeah, it's great. Very exciting.
I know from most of the guys in the band, you're the one that loves touring the most. When you're not touring with Refused, you're with your other band.
Yeah.
What is it about touring that you love so much?
I mean, it's several things. You get to travel. I mean, when I grew up, I didn't think I was going to travel the world, playing music. It's a beautiful thing. The sense of fulfillment that I get from being on stage. I think it's kind of a cliche, but I believe that I'm at my best as a human being. Like for that hour on stage, that's like the closest. That's when I'm the closest to my full potential, and that's like a feeling you always kind of strive for. And I don't know. I just love playing music. I think I'm in love with music and the idea of playing music and performing and traveling. And I just love the whole thing. Also, I am not as a lot of people in the band have a lot of family. I don't. I have a partner, but I don't have any kids, so it's a bit easier for me also to be on tour.
Right.
Yeah.
Does your partner come with you sometimes on tours?
She's been to a couple of the festivals we played and stuff like that, but not touring yet. She has a real job, so
Right.
What
does she do?
She's a social worker.
Great.
She works at the city missionary place where homeless people and outcasts can come and hang out, and she takes care of them. So it's a good, real, proper job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being someone that loves traveling and loves touring, what is your favorite place in the world?
Oh.
Maybe outside of home.
I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of cities where I have a lot of friends, which when you come to a city where you have a lot of friends, that's a great place. And that might be Hamburg, or it might be New York, or Sydney, or whatever that is. I really like touring in Australia.
Cool.
It's beautiful. And New Zealand as well. It's really, really beautiful. But wherever you have good people around you, wherever you have good friends, that's a beautiful thing. So I don't really have like a favorite place.
Okay.
Maybe Australia. So. Well, I don't think the message has changed. I think that it's just like it's not as clear cut to people what we're about as it used to be. We're pretty much about the same thing, and the stuff from the 90s and those ideas that's still something that we carry with us. War music is an insanely political record, but I think the way we approach it, it has to change a little bit, because in the 90s it was so much a part of a small world where everybody had kind of the same ideas, and now we're part of something bigger, and our crowd is more diverse. So there is people that come to the show that might have only heard like New Noise and a couple other songs, and might not know that we are like a truly political revolutionary band. So that it doesn't change your politics, but it changes a little bit how you talk about it, and change your approach, so that you can fully understand that it's not just like-minded people that come to your shows. And as far as the music, I think that war music is probably the most probably the most aggressive record we ever put out. Not all the songs are aggressive in that sense, but it's a very extrovert, and it's a very violent record in a lot of ways.
In your face.
Yeah, it's very much in your face, confrontational, and but I think that is also part of our legacy, like coming from a punk and hardcore background, and carrying that with you, and then the times we live in, like that we live in troubled times, and we wanted to create music that reflected that, and then some people will not like that because it is in your face, but we always kind of been like that, but I think the crowd changed. We didn't really change, the crowd changed, but then as that changed, you have to sort of like maneuver that as well,
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think it's different performing in front of millennials?
Probably. We don't have that many young kids at our shows, though.
Really?
Yeah. It's like a little bit of an older demographic. But I do feel that when young kids come to our shows and hear us talk about these issues and listen, they totally understand what we're talking about, because a lot of millennials, a lot of young people that are like, they grew up in a world where they're the first generation to have it way worse than their parents, and the outlooks of life and job and living situation is worse for everyone. So I think a lot of people, I mean, that's, you see like the groundswell in like the States with Bernie Sanders, like young people are like, oh no, this is our guy, because if I break my leg, I'll go to personal bankruptcy, and like, so I do think that a lot of like the young people kind of understand our sentiments and where we're coming from, so that's a cool thing.
Now you went back to doing a more DIY approach.
Yeah.
What was the main reason for that?
Well, I think it's just like a matter of dialectics. Like when you're a musician or an artist, you create something, and then almost anything you create afterwards is a reaction to what you just created. It's like, if you're a true artist, I mean, some people, they can just repeat the same record over and over again. But I mean, if you are a true artist, like you'll do something, and then you'll let that, kind of, you get a little bit of distance, and then you look at that and you're like, oh wait, you could have done it this way instead, or now I want to do it this way instead. So I think that's what it was. Like we went to America, we worked with a couple of producers, like it was like a big deal. And then, just coming out of that cycle, then we're like, okay, so what next? And then we're like, well, we should do it ourselves, we should do it in our friends' studios, and more DIY and homegrown, and it was just like a reaction to the previous record. And I think musically as well, like a lot of the stuff from Freedom was us trying to find our footing after not playing music together for 14 years, and now we have more of a sense of what we are and what we want to accomplish. And then War Music just came, like when we started writing, we're like, oh yeah, this makes sense, so it's just a reaction. And then next record we might put out might be completely different, and we might approach it differently. So it is just like that when you're always looking for stuff. I think that is what we do.
I guess it's like a living thing, music, right? So
yeah,
you just gotta kind of, people change as does music, as does what you do.
And I mean, even going into, like, you can go into something with a clear idea of what you want to do, but as you said, music is a living thing. So in the middle of it, you can be like, oh no, this is where the music is taking us. It's not like, it's not where we thought we were going to end up, but we ended up over here, because you have to follow the art and you have to follow your creativity. And it's a special thing, like sometimes you'll start out doing a record, and when it's done, you're like, oh, it's not at all the record I talked about a year ago,
Right,
So,
yeah.
but it's a cool thing. It's and you got to be willing to follow your muse. You can't be afraid of that.
In terms of vinyl, what is the last record that you picked up on a whim, not really knowing much about it? And then what's the last album that really hit you and you were like, wow, this is really powerful?
The last record I bought that really blew me away was this artist I think she's from New York, called Lingua Ignota.
Okay.
And it's like, it was weird, I don't even know what kind of music it is. Like, it's a mix of industrial music, but also like piano, and really kind of violent but beautiful. And that was one of those records I was like, someone wrote something about her, like, oh, she's really cool, and I checked out the record and it blew me away, like one of those records I'm like, I can't stop listening to it. So fantastic. But I mean, it's funny because of Spotify and stuff like that, you can actually check stuff out, and they're like, oh, I really like this, I buy it on vinyl. But I mean, I am still like, went to a record store yesterday, I picked up a record, I'm like, I don't know what this is. It looks awesome, and I bought it. I have no idea what it is. Like, I'll come home in 2 weeks and I'll listen to it, and maybe it's good, There's something about that with vinyl, that you look at the artwork, or you look at the record label or the year, and that kind of defines, like, oh, this could be cool,
Yes, definitely.
There's something about that that's very exciting. And I mean, vinyl, I love 7 inches, which is like, your listening to music becomes like an activity, because it's like 3 minutes and you have to switch it out, and I love that. So a lot of times I'll take like 15 7-inches and I just listen to them, and it's like, that's all I do, and you really get into the music. I think people listen to music more than ever, like it's so accessible, and people always listen to music, but that idea of really going deep into a record, or listening to a record over and over and over again, it's kind of got lost a little bit, because our attention span, I mean, I know that myself. Like, you watch a movie and all of a sudden your phone is in your hand, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? I was watching a movie, but our attention span is so low. So and that of course affects how we view music.
Yes.
That's why I love. I mean, Tool put out a record. It's like all their songs like 70 minutes long. I'm like, that's a ballsy move in a world where people have like the attention span of 30 seconds. But there's something about like forcing people to be a part of it. You know, you can't be like a casual listener. You have to be a part of it. I think that's a really amazing thing, and I think that some of the best music I've heard is music that demands your attention, and it demands repeated listenings. You know, like the first time you're like, yeah, it's kind of cool. Then the fifth time you're like, oh wow, this is amazing. And then the 10th time you love it. You know, and that's. I think today a lot of people discard stuff after like, as I said, 30 seconds. Then you're like, this is not really my thing. But some of the greatest music out there is like something that you really need to dive into.
Yeah, and it grows on you.
Yeah, it grows on you. Yeah, and I mean that's as it should be. You know.
Yeah. How does that make you feel when people talk about your record, the record you guys made like that, and kind of put it up on this pedestal?
Yeah, I mean, for a long time it was insanely frustrating because I'm trying to do other music, and then I'm like, no, this moment in time, these couple of months, that's what I'm gonna judge you by. I'm like,
Yes.
no, come on. But then as you grow, and I mean, we're not dumb. Like that record and that song, New Noise. That's why we're still here. You know, that paved the way for everything else we want to do. And I mean, so many of us play music, and so many of us like you put out records and you tour and you do a thing, and you're just like a blip. You're like, boop, and then you're gone, and then a handful of people will be like, oh, I remember that band. They were pretty cool. But to be in a band where 22 years after the record was released, we're still talking about it. It's such a privilege. I could never dream when I was a kid. I could never dream about that would be, I would be in the conversation, you know. And you know, I just, it's insanely humbling. At the same time, it's fucking great, you know. So and it's cool. Like I think that in 20 years we'll still talk about that record. And even if I put out 50 records by then, it would still be that record to define. It's like a turning point in my life, you know.
It's almost like it should have been called The Shape of Refuse to Come.
Yeah. Shape of my life to come.
Let's start with the climate of hardcore today. Are you still actively listening?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, I still have so many friends that play in hardcore bands, and I mean, there's like a whole new breed of like the whole hardcore scene with like Knocked Loose and Turnstile and Incendiary and Fury, and there's like a bunch of good hardcore bands out there. They're young, and it's not really my scene, you know what I mean? It's just always like, which is a beautiful thing to see that. I'm like, oh, that exists. It's awesome. So I think there's still a lot of good hardcore bands and punk bands out there if you just take the time to look, you know. And the bands that we tour with, I pick all the bands we tour with. I do a lot of like, since I am like a record collector nerd, I do a lot of like I Google a lot and like check out bands, and so all the bands we have toured with, it's just like they're handpicked by me. I'm like, I always send a list. I mean, sometimes the management send a list. I'm like, no, here's my list, and you know. So we're lucky on this tour. Like Race Trader, I've been friends with the singer since like the 90s, and Youth Code. It's like one of my favorite bands, and I befriended them a couple of years ago, and I've been nagging them like every time, like, you should tour with us, like we should tour together, and we finally happen, and I'm super excited. Every night, every night I'll check out the support bands, and yeah, as it should be. So yeah. Oh man, what could my favorite new hardcore band? I mean, a lot of those bands I mentioned, they're kind of big already.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a band from my hometown called Leper.
Okay.
It's amazing. They're going to open up for review. We're playing one show in our hometown in like a month, and they're opening up on that show, and they're great.
Are you guys still playing in the youth centers?
No. I
Outgrew
wish. Yeah, we outgrew those youth
Yeah.
centers, and people, they come to our shows, they like to have a beer in their hand. So.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That doesn't really work there.
No, but Leper is a fucking great hardcore band that everybody should check out. They used to be in a bunch of cool bands like Regulations and UX Wildheads and like bands that I put out on my label, but now they have a new band called Leper, and they're great. Yeah. The last thing I listened to on my phone was I was listening to My Bloody Valentine. I think When You Sleep on my iTunes, but then on Spotify. Let's see what the last song I was listening on Spotify. It'd be interesting. It's Big Black, songs about fucking. Yeah, it's good choices. My
Yeah.
Bloody Valentine and Big Black. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And then finally, anything you just want to plug or push or promote? You
No.
wanna say to the fans?
Thanks for having me on this little show, and I hope people come out and see us on this tour, because we don't really. It's going to be our only tour of the States this year, so better make it out.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm gonna go and grab some.